Hello, Dr. Firnhaber here, and it's time for 10 Minutes of Truth, as we normally do on Wednesdays. So, today I have a couple of very interesting articles, very important and actually a little bit depressing, but we really need to know this stuff. So we're going to talk about it. The name of this talk today is called Microplastics in Stool Samples. And the Medical University of Vienna presented it at their annual United European Gastrology Conference in Vienna, a study about plastics in stool samples. And they looked at 8 people from 8 different countries. And all were exposed to foods wrapped in plastic. They drank from water bottles, and 6 of them ate sea fish. So stool samples from these folks were tested for the presence of 10 different types of plastics. And here's what they found. They found polypropylene, which was the main ones they found, which you find in bottle caps. They found 20 micrograms of 20 microplastic particles per 10 grams of stool. They found polyethylene, which is in water bottles, plastic bags, and textile fibers, and polystyrene, which is in takeout food containers, cups, and plastic utensils. Now, the styrene is in like the styrofoam cups that you drink things out of. Now, what they found was this: microplastics in the GI tract, in the human body, number one, can cause inflammation of the intestinal tract. Small particles can enter the bloodstream, the lymph system, and even the liver. Dr. Herbert Tilge, president of the Austrian Society of Gastroenterology, said this: microplastics may be a contributing factor to the rising rates of irritable bowel disease and colon cancer. So these things, these microplastics of all different kinds of plastics were found in all 8 of these people. Now, this is a small study, but I don't think it's any coincidence that they found these plastic particles in all 8 people. Another study showed that polystyrene, which again you find in styrofoam cups, plastic dinnerware, plastic food containers, and polystyrene is in those take-home restaurant doggy containers that they have. They said polystyrene affects gut barrier, the microbiome, so it disrupts the gut bacteria and the metabolism of mice. So they fed mice chow with, the equivalent of this these plastic particles, and they found out that it really affected the GI system and the metabolism of mice. Polystyrene accumulates in fish livers, causing oxidative stress, disturb lipid metabolism, and energy metabolism in fish. Now, there hasn't been any studies that I know of that looks at this in human beings, but it's interesting because if fish are accumulating them and we're eating fish, then how is that going to affect us? They also found that polystyrene can be taken into cells, causing significant effects on the tissue of blue mussels. So blue mussels is a type of mollusk that lives in the ocean, and that polystyrene particles can be taken into the cells of these mollusks and causes significant metabolic disruption. Drinking water is now universally contaminated by microplastics. Very few bottled waters are free of microplastics. In fact, the Nestle's brand had by far the most microplastic particles in them. I mean, huge amounts. All filtered, everybody should be all unfiltered tap water contains plastic particles. And 90% of plastic particles found can cross the gut barrier into your body, accumulating in your lymph, your kidneys, and your liver. So tap water contains microplastics. Bottled water contains microplastics. So here's the thing. How do the microplastics get in tap water? Well, first of all, a lot of sewage sludge is used as fertilizer. What does that sewage sludge contain? Lots and lots of microplastic particles, which again gets into the soil and into our water system. Now, if you drink tap water that's filtered, that's different, okay? So you have a filtration system, then you will not get those microparticles. They'll be filtered out. So what can we do to protect ourselves? Because it's difficult. We all buy food in plastics. I personally try and drink out of as little bottled water containers as I can. Okay, I don't drink bottled water hardly ever. Now, here's the things you can do. Number one is avoid bottled water. Use tap water. Use usable shopping bags. So don't use reusable shopping bags. Use your own coffee mugs when you get coffee. I do that all the time. Use my own coffee mug. I have a stainless steel coffee mug, and I use that when I drink coffee. Store food in glass containers rather than plastic containers. Take leftover containers to the restaurant with you so you don't have to put your food in polystyrene doggy containers. And number 6, and this is a really big thing, wash your fleece and microfiber clothes as little as possible. So the microfibers in fleece and the yoga stretch pants, those are some of the primary ways that plastics get into the ocean and into our water system. So we need to wash those as little as possible, because whenever you wash those types of clothes that have these artificial fibers in, and we all like fleece, I like mine, the problem is those particles end up in our water supply and in the ocean, and they affect ocean fish and all kinds of living organisms in the ocean. Plus, we found that these microplastics accumulate. They tend to soak up biotoxins. So what happens to that? If they get into fish and then we eat the fish, we're on top of the food chain. So it's not a good situation. So if you can, buy organic fiber clothing, natural fiber clothing, which I admit, pretty difficult to do nowadays because of all the fibers that are made from artificial ingredients and from petroleum, really. So wash your fleeces, your microfiber clothes as little as possible, and do what you can to help the environment. Now, the only other thing that I would add to this, and this is not in the study, this is now my personal opinion, is that you need to make sure that you're eating a clean, whole food diet, and that you're having several bowel movements a day to get that stuff out of your system. I would also recommend maybe taking some good supplements that heal your gut. Now, that isn't necessarily a probiotic. There's a lot of other things that can actually heal the lining of your gut. And I would recommend that you take those products as well on a regular basis to help your gut maintain the constant barrage of plastic particles that we're getting. So that's the 10 minutes of truth today. Next Tuesday, we're going to have a talk on the causes of chronic disease and chronic ill health in our children, which has gone up rapidly in the last 30 years. So we're going to talk about that on my Tuesday night talk at 6:30, and then next Wednesday, be ready because we're going to have another 10 minutes of truth. I'll see you then.